are welcome to join.
Om Namo Narayana.
प्रेम से बोलिए श्री गजानन स्वामी की जय, सीतापति रामचंद्र की जय, सीताराम devotees. A very special welcome to you this evening to this one night Ramayan Satsang. This evening we're very blessed to come together in devotion to Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra at this beautiful mandir here at Tilak Singh Trace. We pray that the blessings of Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra would be bestowed upon you and indeed the entire community, the entire village here. That through his blessings we'll all be inspired, my dear friends, motivated to carry forward the dharmic mantle of responsibility in the work of dharma, in the work of Sanatan Dharma, in the upkeep and the functioning of our mandir, and of course praying that this would bring together the various aspects of our community under the umbrella of devotion, under the umbrella of bhakti. Let us all close our eyes as we bring to our minds that most wondrous, beauteous form of Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra, as we pray for his blessings and for the success of our devotions here tonight. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha, Shri Saraswatyaye Namaha, Shri Guru Charan Kamale Bhyo Namo Namaha. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvighanam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakareshu Sarvara Vinadhare Vipula Mangaladam Shile Bhaktarti Nashini Biranchi Harisha Vande Kirti Pradhe Akhila Manoratha De Mahade Vidya Pradayani Saraswati Naumi Nityam. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaram Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Guru Ve Namaha. Nagendraharaya Trilochanaya Bhasmangaragaya Maheshwaraya Nityaya Shudhaya Digambaraya Tasmai Nakaraya Namah Shivaya. Manujavang Marutulya Vegam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Vadishtam Vatatmajam Vanarayutamukhyam Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prabhadhe. Ram Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Verse Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaye Pate Namaha. Neelambhujam Shamalakomalangam Sita Samarupatibam Bhagyam Panu Mahasayak चारुचापं नमामि रामं रघुवंशनाथम् ॐ शान्ति 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 हरि ओम। रामायण सुमिरन। सुमिरत सिद्धि होई, गणनायक करिवर बदनम, प्रभु अनुग्रह सोई, बुद्धि राशि शुभ गुण सदनम। मोका होई वाचा पंगु चढ़य गिरिवर गहनम, जासु कृपा सुदया द्रवो सकल कलिमल दहनम। नील सरोरुषां तरुण अरुण बारिज नयनम, करवो सो मम ऊर्ध्वां, सदा क्षीर सागर शयनम। इंदु समदे उमा रमण करुणायनम, चाहि दीन परने करवो कृपा मर्दन नयनम। बंदावो गुरु परकंज, कृपा सिंधु नर रूप हरि, महामोहतम पूंज, सासु बचन रवि कर कर। बंदावो गुरु परकंज, कृपा सिंधु नर रूप हरि, महामोहतम पूंज, सासु बचन रवि कर कर। बंदावो पावन कुमार, ज्ञान घन जासो हृदय आगार बसहि राम सर चापधरम तुलसी कृत रामायण कथा करहु अनुसार आसन लीजय प्रेम हित आयहु पवन कुमार सियापति रामचंद्र जी की जय शरणम। Let us firstly focus our thoughts on Lord Ganesh. As we pray for the blessings of Bhagwan Ganapati, who brings success to us in all our undertakings. गाइए गणपति जगवंदन गाइए गणपति जगवंदन गाइए गणपति जगवंदन गाइए गणपति जगवंदन शंकर सुवन भवानी नंदन शंकर सुवन भवानी नंदन गाइए गणपति जगवंदन गाइए गणपति जगवंदन सिद्धि सदन गज वरन विनायक सिद्धि सदन गज वरन विनायक कृपा सिंधु सुंदर सब लायक शंकर सुवन भवानी नंदन शंकर सुवन भवानी नंदन गाइए गणपति जगवंदन गाइए गणपति जगवंदन मोरक प्रिय मुर मंगल दाता मोरक प्रिय मुर मंगल दाता वीर्यवारिधि बुद्धि विधाता शंकर सुवन भवानी नंदन शंकर सुवन भवानी नंदन गाइए गणपति जगवंदन गाइए गणपति जगवंदन मांगत तुलसीदास कर जोरी, मांगत तुलसीदास कर जोरी, बसहि राम सिया मानस मोरी। शंकर सुवन भवानी नंदन, शंकर सुवन भवानी नंदन, गाइए गणपति जगवंदन, गाइए गणपति जगवंदन। शंकर सुवन भवानी नंदन, शंकर सुवन भवानी नंदन, गाइए गणपति जगवंदन, गाइए गणपति जगवंदन, गाइए गणपति जगवंदन। प्रेम से बोलिए श्री गजानन स्वामी की जय। So this evening, before we actually begin our katha, let me pass you on to members of the group on stage as we listen to a few bhajans and then begin our Ramayan katha, from which we are reading from Sundarkand tonight.
कभी राम बन के कभी श्याम बन के चली आना प्रभु जी चली आना। कभी राम बन के कभी श्याम बन के चली आना प्रभु जी चली आना। कभी
प्रेम मुदित मन से कहो राम राम राम, राम राम राम, राम राम राम, श्री राम राम राम। प्रेम मुदित मन से कहो राम राम राम, राम राम राम, राम राम राम, श्री राम राम राम। कते दुख मिटे लहित राम नाम, पाप कते दुख मिटे लहित राम नाम। भव समुद्र सुकर नावे एक राम राम, भव समुद्र सुकर नावे एक राम राम। राम राम राम, राम राम राम, श्री राम राम राम। शांति सुख निधान दिव्य राम नाम, परम शांति सुख निधान दिव्य राम नाम। निराधार को आधार एक राम राम, निराधार को आधार एक राम राम। राम राम राम, राम राम राम, श्री राम राम राम। परम गोप्य परम इष्ट मंत्र राम नाम, परम गोप्य परम इष्ट मंत्र राम नाम। संत हृदय सदा बसंते राम राम, संत हृदय सदा बसंते राम राम। राम राम राम, राम राम राम, श्री राम राम राम। पिता बंधु सखा सब ही राम नाम, माता पिता बंधु सखा सब ही राम नाम। भक्त जनन जीवन धन्य एक राम राम, भक्त जनन जीवन धन्य एक राम राम। राम राम राम, राम राम राम, श्री राम राम राम। प्रेम मुदित मन से कहो राम राम राम, राम राम राम, राम राम राम, श्री राम राम राम। राम राम राम, राम राम राम, राम राम राम, श्री राम राम राम। श्री राम राम राम, श्री राम राम राम, श्री राम राम राम।
भोलेनाथ से निराला, गौरीनाथ से निराला कोई और नहीं। भोलेनाथ से निराला, गौरीनाथ से निराला कोई और नहीं। ऐसा बिगड़ी बनाने वाला कोई और नहीं। भोलेनाथ से निराला, गौरीनाथ से निराला कोई और नहीं। उनका डमरू दम दम बोले, अगम निगम की वेद खोले। उनका डमरू दम दम बोले, अगम निगम का भेद खोले। ऐसा भक्तों का रखवाला कोई और नहीं। भोलेनाथ से निराला, गौरीनाथ से निराला कोई और नहीं। काया जब जब पर्वत बदले, पाप चमकते अगले पिछले। काया जब जब पर्वत बदले, पाप चमक दुख के अजले पिछले, अब तो मुक्ताने वाला कोई और नहीं। भोलेनाथ से निराला, गौरीनाथ से निराला कोई और नहीं।
प्रेम से बोलिए सीतापति रामचंद्र की जय. And now, devotees, we turn our attention to our katha tonight. We're reading from Sundar Kand, as we indicated earlier. The glories of Shri Hanumanji. He has taught us many beautiful lessons through the pages of Ramayan Katha of devotion and dedication. And that willingness to always be of service and seva to Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra. Siddhi sadan anand karni, मंगल मूड निधान, लक्ष्मण और तुलसीदास सहित रामचंद्र भगवान. बंदव पार धरी धरनी सीस महावीर हनुमान. Tonight we bow with reverence to that Mahavir, to that great warrior. Bala Buddhi Vidya Dijiye, bestow upon us, O Hanumanji, that strength, that intelligence, that wisdom. Siddhi sadan anand karni, मंगल मूर निधान, लक्ष्मण और तुलसीदास सहित रामचंद्र भगवान. बंदव पार धरी धरनी, सीस महावीर हनुमान. बल बुद्धि विद्या दीजिए निज चरणन हनुमान. अरे राम भय व्याकुल सुनो हनुमान. अरे राम भय व्याकुल सुनो हनुमान. सुनो हनुमान, सुनो हनुमान, सुनो हनुमान. राम भय व्याकुल सुनो हनुमान. अरे राम भय व्याकुल सुनो हनुमान. सीता हरण मरण दशरथ को, लागे लक्ष्मण बाण. लागे लक्ष्मण बाण. सीता हरण मरण दशरथ को, लागे लक्ष्मण बाण. इतनी परिहरि ऊपर, इतनी दीप्ति परिहरि ऊपर, सोचत कृपा निधान. राम भय व्याकुल सुनो हनुमान. अरे राम भय व्याकुल सुनो हनुमान. सुनो हनुमान, सुनो हनुमान, सुनो हनुमान. राम भय व्याकुल सुनो हनुमान, अरे राम भई व्याकुल सुनो हनुमान। लक्ष्मण मरहु हम मर जय के, सिया सुनीच जी प्राण, सिया सुनीच जी प्राण। लक्ष्मण मरहु हम मर जय के, सिया सुनीच जी प्राण। इतनी आज तूने हूँ पवन सुत, इतनी आज तूने हूँ पवन सुत, इन मूर्ति जीव प्राण। राम भई व्याकुल सुनो हनुमान, अरे राम भई व्याकुल सुनो हनुमान। सुनो हनुमान, सुनो हनुमान, सुनो हनुमान, राम भई व्याकुल सुनो हनुमान। बैर सुषेण कहे रघुनंदन, लक्ष्मण राखी प्राण, लक्ष्मण राखी प्राण। बैर सुषेण कहे रघुनंदन, लक्ष्मण राखी प्राण। तुलसीदास भजु भगवाना, तुलसीदास भजु भगवाना, देखी वीर सुजान। राम भई व्याकुल सुनो हनुमान, अरे राम भई व्याकुल सुनो हनुमान। सुनो हनुमान, सुनो हनुमान, सुनो हनुमान, राम भई व्याकुल सुनो हनुमान, अरे राम भई व्याकुल सुनो हनुमान, अरे राम भई व्याकुल सुनो हनुमान। बोलिए श्री पवन पुत्र हनुमान की जय। And now in this first chaupai, Tulsidas Ji Maharaj describes to us that Hanuman Ji has been sent on a mission by Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra. That mission, of course, is to go to Lanka and to deliver to Sita Devi that reassurance that very soon the ocean would be bridged, that Ram Setu, which still exists today, joining India to what is present-day Sri Lanka, that Ram Setu, that bridge would be built, and of course Sri Ram would march his army across that bridge to destroy and defeat Ravan and Kumkaran and the host of other demons, and of course to safely return Sita Devi to the side of Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra. मसक समान रूप कपि धारी, मसक समान रूप कपि धारी, लंका ही चले वो सुमीरी नर हरि नाम लंकिनी एकनी सी चरी सो कहाँ चले सी मोहि निंदरी जय राम श्री राम जय जय राम जाने ही नहीं मरम सत मोरा जाने ही नहीं मरम सत मोरा मोर आहार जहाँ लगी चोरा मुट्ठी का एक महाकपि हनी रुधिरा बमत धरनी तनमानी जय राम श्री राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम मसक समान रूप कपिधरी लंक ही चलेवू सुमिरि नर हरि नाम लंकिनी एक निसिचरी सो कह चलेसी मोहि निंदरी. My dear friends, the army of Sri Ram was divided into 4 battalions, and each battalion was sent in the 4 cardinal direction: eastern, western, northern, southern direction, and they were directed to search extensively, leave no stone unturned. At all costs, you must locate Sita Devi. And my dear friends, after searching the mountains and the valleys and all the villages, still they could find no trace of Devi Sita Mata. And so finally they have assembled on the seashore. All that separates them now is the ocean from Lanka. And it is here that Sampati gives to them that information that they were searching for, that is the location of Sita Devi. If you go to Lanka, you would find Sita Mata being held as a prisoner of Ravan in the Ashok Vatika, that grove where all the Ashoka trees are planted. And so, Hanumanji, my dear friends, was given this assignment to go to cross the ocean, to go to Lanka, and to deliver to Sita Devi this very important and critical information. The bridge has not been built as yet. That Ram Setu was built afterwards. So how was he to cross the ocean? In Hanuman Chalisa, a very popular line says, Ashta Siddhi Navanidhi Ke Data. Hanumanji possesses Ashta Siddhi, or 8 Siddhis. And these Siddhis, my dear friends, enables him to perform all of these miracles. And so standing upon the Mahindra Parvat, he chanted, or shouted I should say, Jai Shri Ram, at the top of his voice. You know, this is one of the reasons when we do Jaikar in Satsang and Yajna and so on, we invite all devotees to also, with that type of vigor, with that type of energy, with that type of Shakti, when you chant Jai, victory to Bhagwan, in turn, you become victorious in your life. In other words, it's not just for the sake of shouting or saying it loudly, but rather the blessings it invoke into your life to overcome the various challenges and so on. So here he is, Hanumanji, embarking upon this very risky mission to go into Lanka. It's risky because Lanka, of course, is the host of all, the nest of all the demons. You know, there are certain parts of Trinidad, I wouldn't call the name of the places, but if you go into certain parts of Trinidad, you're very fearful. There are certain companies that do not deliver to certain parts of Trinidad because the drivers are always held up and ambushed and kidnapped and robbed and so on. You know, this is the kind of mission that Hanumanji is undertaking. He is going to Lanka, my dear friends, into the host and nest of all the demons. But he is fearless, he is courageous, for he has invoked, my dear friends, the blessings of Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra into his life and into that mission that he is embarking upon. So what are these siddhis, my dear friends? We commonly chant the line, we commonly refer to the line of Hanuman Chalisa, Ashta Siddhi Navanidhi Ke Data, that he possesses these 8 siddhis. What are these siddhis? For as he lifts off from the Mahendra Parvat, my dear friends, he begins a flight. He's flying across the ocean. And this particular siddhi is called Laghima Siddhi, and it is a power to become weightless. Now, how can we become weightless? There is one force, my dear friends, that is keeping us on our seats here tonight, and that is the force of gravity. We too could practice Laghima Siddhi if we master the art of anti-gravity. That is, negating the force of gravity that is acting upon our bodies. You know, when the astronauts go into space, when they go to the moon, what do? They don't walk on the moon. You see them virtually flying around or floating around on the moon. How are they able to do that? Because the moon has 0 gravity. As long as there's no gravity, we too would become weightless. So Laghima Siddhi, my dear friends, is where Hanumanji was able to shut off that force of gravity acting upon his body. Thus he becomes weightless, giving him the ability to fly, leaving the Mahendra Parvat, my dear friends, and beginning that flight, not with an aircraft, not with a Pushpak Viman. The Pushpak Viman was not available to him at that point in time. But my dear friends, simply flying across the ocean, acting upon this mission of Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra on the way to Lanka. And remember, he is Pavan Putra. Who is Pavan Devata? Pavan Devata is a deity that presides over the wind. You know, you have wind, the wind is blowing in all different directions. Sometimes we have northeasterly wind, and sometimes people will say a wrong side wind blew. What that means? It means the wind has changed direction. So having made his body weightless, what happens? Pavan Devata blows the wind towards Lanka. And in this manner, my dear friends, Hanumanji, who was at that time weightless, as we say, light as a feather, and even that is too heavy, with the power of the wind, he is now flying and traveling towards Lanka. But now ships have engines, very powerful engines. But hundreds of years ago, there were no engines. What did they use? The power of the wind, isn't it? When our ancestors came to Trinidad, they brought Satsang with them. They brought harmonium and dholak with them. They sat down and they performed Satsang just as we're performing here tonight, except they were not sitting on chairs as you are sitting. What we call spread pal. They spread the pal on a lipe floor and they would perform Satsang. Except they did not have electric lights and the TV cameras as you have here tonight. They had maybe the flambeau or the pitchoy light or the Gaslight, yes. There was a type of gaslight that you had to pump it up or wind it up for it to light. They perform satsang under those very, what people would call primitive conditions, but they perform satsang. All of these are lessons, my dear friends. They had very difficult work, very difficult jobs. They either work on the sugarcane plantation, or the rice, or the cocoa or coffee plantation. And you know what the hours of work were? Sunrise to sunset. They did not have air condition and fan and so on. They worked in the hot sun. When the sun was hot, they worked under the hot sun. When the rain fell, they continued to work. No sheltering from the rain. And my dear friends, despite working virtually 12 hours for the day, they still had enough energy to come to the mandir, the little kutia that they would build with karat, and sit on that lipe floor, no microphone. And they would sing, my dear friends. And now we cut off exactly in 2 hours. They would sometime go until half night, sometime until 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. And you know, they still get up the next day and go to the sugarcane and work for 12 hours again. And still have enough energy to go to satsang the next night again. This is a legacy, my dear friends, that has been placed in our hands. Rishi Santana Hone Ko. The blood of the rishis and munis flowed in their veins, and it is still flowing in our veins. You know, we must recognize and understand that we are proud descendants of very powerful and honorable and respectable people. And sometimes, you know, when we look around today, we feel a little bit disappointed, because I'm not certain in many, many quarters and in many, many communities, my dear friends, that we are really upholding the great legacy that those indentured laborers, those jahajis, and when we speak of them, you know who they are? They are our grandparents. Our Aji and Aja, our Nani and Nana, they are not strangers to us. Sometimes I get the feeling in speaking to some of our people, you know, when we speak of the Jahajis, they feel as somebody who is a stranger to them. They are our grandparents and great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents, my dear friends. And the type of conditions, the difficult conditions under which they lived, my dear friends. We function in relative comfort and luxury today. And my dear friends, it seems we are unable to do even a fraction of what they were able to do in terms of building all the mandirs and putting into place, my dear friends, all the musical accompaniment and singing and so on, bhajans and biraha and chautal and Ramayan and so on, that we are practicing here today. So, you know, when we celebrate the Indian arrival, it must be done, my dear friends, to honor them. And how can we honor them? By singing and practicing their art form. And their art form was bhajan, biraha, chautal, jal Ramayan, the type of Ramayan that we are singing, the orthodox original form of Ramayan that we're singing here tonight, my dear friends. This is the art form that they taught us. And we must be proud of this. The classical singing is something that is unique to Trinidad. Indian classical singing and Trinidad classical singing is two different things. Our ancestors developed this art of classical singing right here, my dear friends, whilst they were working in the sugarcane and the rice and the cocoa and coffee and so on. They were singing and practicing this art form, and it is this gift that they're giving us today, that they have given to us today. And it is this responsibility, my dear friends, that we have to carry it forward into the future. For if we don't, then what happens to the art form? It dies. Have you ever seen a relay race being run? It's very simple. You have maybe 4 runners. So each runner is responsible for running his part of the race swiftly and quickly and transferring the baton to the next runner. You would notice one team would run perfectly and transfer that baton, my dear friends, quickly, and of course that team may become victorious. Another team would run, but one of the runners would stumble and fall. What happens to that team? They lose because of one member, one runner, one leg of that race. He failed to perform in the manner in which he was assigned to perform. Our generation, my dear friends, is one leg of that relay. Those who came before us, they did a wonderful job. They taught to the younger children the music. That is why we are here, playing harmonium and dholak and reading Ramayan here tonight. They taught us this art form, so that we are carrying this on here tonight in this mandir, my dear friends. The question is, are the young Hindus today being taught? Are we exposing them sufficiently? Because that's what they did. Our parents, our grandparents, what they did, they gave us that exposure. This is a very important part of understanding how the transfer of culture, art form, and religion survives. Somebody is supposed to be doing the transferring. And somebody is supposed to be motivating the young people to accept that transfer. So as we say, those who came before us, they did a wonderful job. They have placed that culture and that religion and that art form in our hands. Let us not be the runner that stumbles and fall, my dear friends, and fail all of those who went before him. Because that is precisely what we stand the risk of doing, my dear friends, when we do not step forward and play our part and do our part in the functioning of the mandir and ensuring, of course, the community comes together. And most importantly, the young children are taught, the art form of singing in its original form. And now you have all sorts of variation that somehow corrupts the purest form of the music that was given to us by our ancestors. In its purest form, the original form of bhajan and biraha and so on, my dear friends, we preserve and teach our children. So we're coming back to the siddhis of Hanuman Baba. Laghima siddhi is that siddhi, my dear friends, where he becomes weightless. And having become weightless, as we say, he's now flying across the ocean to go to Lanka. And I just want to go into the other 7 very quickly. For we must be aware of what these 8 siddhis are, my dear friends. When we pray to Hanuman Baba, we also praying that his blessings, even a particle, we would never be able to fully acquire. These siddhis are very powerful powers that has been vested to Hanuman Swami and Shankar Bhagwan and Bhagwan Krishna and all the divine entities. We were not capable of acquiring the fullness of these siddhis. That even if we obtain a particle through his blessings, my dear friends, we can empower ourselves as well. The next one is Anima Siddhi, and this enables that individual to attain a very small size, as small as he desires. By attaining the siddhi, that individual can reduce one's body to even the size of an atom or even become invisible. He becomes supernaturally strong when he enacts or implements this siddhi called the Anima Siddhi. And by the way, this is the siddhi he would utilize when he actually arrives in Lanka. The third is Mahima Siddhi, and this is the ability to expand one's body to a large size, as large as you want, as you desire to. This is the siddhi he utilized when he went to get the Mool Sajivan. Remember, Lakshman was shot by Meghnad. Even as he fell unconscious upon the battle floor, my dear friends, the Dr. Ved Sushen directed them to bring back the Mool Sajivan. It was Hanuman Swami who was sent to bring back the Mool Sajivan. But when he got to the mountain, he could not identify the plant, so taking that form larger than the Sanjeevani mountain, he picked up the mountain in his hand and he began his journey back to the battlefield. So that's the Mahima Siddhi, to make one's body as large as he desires to. The Garima Siddhi is that ability to become infinitely heavy. This enables that individual to make himself as heavy as he desires and cannot be moved by anyone or anything or any force for that matter. Prapti Siddhi is the ability to construct anything. This enables that individual to achieve anything he desires. Even the impossible becomes possible for that individual. Even getting water in a desert area is made possible through the Prapti Siddhi. Prakamya Siddhi is the ability to become whatever he desires. The thoughts of that person changes drastically and he experiences a flow of supernatural energies. By achieving this ability, he is able to do anything he wants and can fly or even walk upon water. Ishita Siddhi, knowing all powers and getting control over them, is known as Ishita Siddhi. This enables that individual to control all elements of the universe and possesses power over these. You know, like for instance, we're in the hurricane season, and sometimes people say God is a Trini, because sometimes the storm or the hurricane is on the doorstep of Trinidad and suddenly veers off north. Who has the power to do that? Pavan Devata. The steering winds. You know, the winds steer the hurricane. Eh? So as powerful as they are, if the winds are blowing northwards, the hurricane is going to go northwards. And if the winds are blowing west, straight to Trinidad, then of course the storm or the hurricane is going to come in a westerly direction and pass directly over Trinidad. So Ishita Siddhi, my dear friends, to control the elements. And of course the wind, the rain, all of these are the various elements to which we are exposed to. And the eighth, my dear friends, of the Ashta Siddhi is Vashikaran, or the ability to get control over debt. Everyone would perhaps desire to have that Vashikaran Siddhi. We are told that, you know, when Sri Ram stood in the Sarayu river, this is the time of his ascension. Now note carefully, in the Hindu scriptures, Bhagavan does not die. He does not suffer old age and sickness and disease and so on. When it is time for him to return to his heavenly abode, there's something called ascension. He merely ascends back to his heavenly abode. You and I, we are subjected to death and the processes of old age and sickness and pain and so on. Bhagavan is not subjected to these. So right here in the Ramayan Katha, we're told that when Sri Ram stood in the Sarayu river and he was about to ascend back to his heavenly abode, he said to Hanumanji, O Pavan Putra, I want you to remain here on this earthly planet. And in fact, some years ago, you may have been given a picture. This picture was circulated internationally of what appears to be Hanuman Baba still sitting in a cave in India reading Ramayan Katha. Ramcharitramanas. This is his love, my dear friends, to always be reading Ramayan Katha. And so, of course, it connects with what Sri Ram instructed him to do. Upavan Putra, remain here. For what he was doing, those who wished to accompany him to his heavenly abode at the time of ascension, they stood with him in the Saryu river, my dear friends. And at the time of ascension, Tulsidas, she says that simply a brilliant ray of light was seen emerging out of the Saryu river and ascending heavenwards. You know, sometimes I feel the Hollywood directors read the Ramayan. Because if you ever look at some of these movies that has these situations or scenes where people are transported from one time to another time, from one century to another century, this is precisely what you see. Simply a ray of light, and the person leave here and they went back to 1500 BC. This is what is described in the Ramayan. The only difference is Ramayan came before Hollywood. And what we read here, my dear friends, is more than 7,000 years old. So this description, my dear friends, came thousands of years before anybody decided that, look, you could be transported from one realm to another. And it is described as Tulsidas, she says, there they were standing in the Saryu river. They simply disappeared from sight. Hanumanji was left there because Sri Ram said to him, Pavan Putra, you stay here on this planet Earth. You protect my devotees. And suddenly, Sri Ram and all others who were accompanying him, who requested to accompany him to his heavenly abode, disappeared from the Saryu river, my dear friends. And that brilliant light was seen ascending to Bhagwan's heavenly abode. This, my dear friends, is the opportunity that Sri Ram gave to the people at that time. And this is the opportunity, by the way, that is still available. We would not have the opportunity to stand with him in the Saryu river and at his side ascend to his heavenly abode, but we can achieve that same position, that same place that the people secured, my dear friends, at that time, at his side in Vaikuntha Lok, by living that life of a devotee, by remembering him. And it's very simple, you know. In Shivadi Katha, right here in Ramayan, what did he say? Prathama bhakti santana kar sanga dusari rati mama katha prasanga. In Naudha Bhakti, the 9 forms of devotion, he says to Shivadi, if anybody even practices one out of the 9, 1/9, that's all you need to do. Not that you should settle for 1/9. We always seek to do as much as possible and achieve as much as possible. But Bhagavan, in his divine mercy, in trying to make it easy and simple for us, he says, even if you practice 1 out of the 9, still, you receive my blessings. But my dear friends, what it says, Prathama Bhakti Santana Kara Sangha, even if you just simply come to Satsang. And that is what you're doing here right now. So it's nothing difficult. It's nothing impossible to achieve. And you know, this is why we come back to the Jahajis, our great parents and grandparents and so on. They read this, they understood this. And so this is why they made the time, my dear friends, to have satsang in every home and every village. Now I don't know if you remember, the older ones here would remember a time that there was village satsang. Apart from what would take place in the mandir, every home in the village, one day for the week. This week you would come to my home. Next week we would go to your home. And the week after that we'll go to the neighbor's home. And before the year has come to an end, every single home in the village would have had at least one satsang for the year. Now what this did for the community is it brought the community together, my dear friends. There was a greater sense of cooperation within the villages and the community. So much so, people would tell you, long time if there's a wedding in the village or even a week, someone dies. Well, now people don't cut bamboo to build tent again. And one of the reasons is because you don't have the cooperation to do it anymore. But there was a time if you had to build a bamboo tent, you had more people than you would need to go and cut the bamboo. The whole village would come out. You would have to say, no, we don't need so many people. You stay behind. That was a level of togetherness and cooperation that existed. And it started off, my dear friends, with those village satsang. And when it's my turn to host the satsang, everybody in the village comes to my home. And when it's your turn to host, your week comes up, everyone goes to your home. So what did it do? It fostered within the community, and you see, especially for the younger children. Now, for the most part, parents come to the temple and leave the children home. And we wonder, where are the children? The children are home because the parents left the children home. But what existed, what happened, my dear friends, the practice in those days, all the children and grandchildren were brought to the various homes and mandirs and so on, where the satsang was taking place. And there's a long-term value and benefit to that, my dear friends. What it did, when the children would come and sit, children, what they are exposed to, that is what they want to do. So if you expose them to the Facebook and the YouTube and so on, what they see there, they're going to want to do that. And if you expose them to the satsang, you bring them to the mandir, what they see here, they want to go to do that. For instance, they would see harmonium and dholak and people singing, and they would want to learn to play harmonium and dholak and sing bhajans and so on. But if their only exposure, my dear friends, is what they see on TV and what they see on YouTube, now they are good and bad. I'm not condemning YouTube, because I look at a lot of bhajans and religious programming and so on, on YouTube. So if you use it for that purpose, nothing is wrong. But we all know that in many, many instances, what our children are being exposed to, my dear friends, is not the bhajan and the religious programming, but they have another type of entertainment there. And there is precisely, my dear friends, where we are losing many, many of our young people to a culture, well, it's not culture really, to a type of lifestyle. Culture indicates something that is rich, something that has some tangible benefit, something that is virtuous. But in many instances, what they're being exposed to, my dear friends, is simply corrupting their minds and their thoughts and their lives. So much so that when you speak to some of them, my dear friends, we become very disappointed sometimes when you listen to their speech and their lifestyle and you look at their behavior and so on. We become very disappointed. And again, it is because of the exposure, my dear friends, that many of our young people are getting today. So, my dear friends, this was a common practice in many villages, and of course it has disappeared. Whereas the young people, the young boys would have converged at the satsang, that is maybe 40, 50 years ago. Now if you pass down the road by the bar, you would see where they are converging. You pass down by the bridge on the block, you see where they are converging, and what type of activity are they getting involved in there? Well, I don't have to tell you. I think you pass yourself and you see what is going on, So there is where they develop the alcohol and the use of the alcohol and the use of many of the drugs and so on, my dear friends, that they're simply losing themselves to today. So we must understand as parents, as grandparents, as elders in the community, we have a role to play in nurturing the minds of the young people. Give them the correct exposure, my dear friends, so that when you come and you sit here, you will begin to see your own children and your own grandchildren, sitting here on stage and singing the beautiful bhajans, playing the music and maybe some of the, the art form of dance. Not the type of corrupted dance we have today, the original art form of Kathak dance and other forms of dance, my dear friends, invocational dances and so on, that they would be the practitioners of these. And when this happens, my dear friends, we can be certain that, the culture and the art form remains in good hands. हे मनवारे मनवा जीवन है ये संग्राम. O devotee, amidst the battles and challenges of life, surrender yourself to that divine Lord Sri Ram. Simply by chanting his name, you would be able to clear all obstacles and impediments from your pathway. He manware manwa जीवन है संग्राम. ओ भजले राम राम राम, भजले राम राम राम, भजले राम राम राम, भजले राम राम राम. हे मनवारे हे मनवा जीवन है संग्राम. हे मनवारे मनवा जीवन है संग्राम. ओ भजले राम राम राम, भजले राम राम राम, भजले राम राम राम, भजले राम राम राम. हे मनवारे मनवा जीवन है संग्राम. मनवारे मनवा जीवन है संग्राम. We go to this next chaupai. As Hanumanji arrives in that city of Lanka, so remember, he has crossed the ocean, utilizing the Laghima Siddhi, making his body weightless. And driven by the powers of the wind, Pavan Devata, he has now landed on the outskirts of the city of Lanka. संभारी उठी सोलंका, उठी सोलंका. जोड़ी पानी कर विनय सशंका. जय राम श्री राम, श्री राम जय राम. जब रावण ही ब्रह्म वर दीना, जब रावण ही ब्रह्म वर दीना, चलत बिरंची कहा मोही चीन्हा। बोलो जय राम श्री राम। कलहो सीते कपि के मारे, कपि के मारे, तब जानी निश्चर संहारे। जय राम श्री राम। तात मोर अति पुण्य बहुता, तात मोर अति पुण्य बहुता, देखे नयन राम कर दूता। बोलो जय राम श्री राम। श्री राम जय राम, जय जय राम। श्री राम जय राम, जय जय राम। पुनि संभारी उठी सोलंका, जोड़ी पानी कर बिनय सशंका। जब रावण ही ब्रह्म वर दीन्हा, चलत बिरंची कहाँ मोहि चीन्हा। And so, my dear friends, as he stood at the entrance or the borders of that city of Lanka, he notices at each and every entry point, Ravan has posted several guards and soldiers that no one can get by undetected by those soldiers, my dear friends, who virtually seal off that city of Lanka from any intruders. You know, like right now, it is often said that the borders to the south of Trinidad is very porous. What does it mean? There are not sufficient, Coast Guard and soldiers and so on. So many people are coming through undetected through the southern borders, and I dare say other parts of the country as well. So each country, each kingdom would have certain borders and so on. And what you're supposed to do? Protect your kingdom or your country by deploying your soldiers and so on, your guards and so on, to safeguard. That you want to know who is coming into your kingdom and into your country. So this is precisely the situation that Hanumanji met. In other words, my dear friends, what is described to us, although the Katha is more than 7,000 years old, the type of structure of national security that existed may even surpass what we have today in today's modern society. Although it is very ancient, as we say, more than 7,000 years, wherever he goes, what does he see? The soldiers and the guards are there. You cannot enter without going by these soldiers. And of course, they know Hanuman Baba. They know who he is. They know that he belongs to the army of Sri Ram. So obviously, they would not allow him to enter into Lanka. They know of the mission that Sri Ram has sent Hanumanji. This is why You know, sometimes if the police knows have some certain elements coming down the road, they would set up their roadblock and so on, as they're looking out for those individuals who are coming along a certain roadway. So they're expecting this visitor. So Hanumanji knows that he must enter into Lanka undetected. So this is why Tulsidas says, Masak samana rupa kapithari, tiny as a mosquito. And we already discussed the siddhis and how that particular siddhi enables him to take a form as small as he wants to. And you know, this is the thing we must talk to the young children about, my dear friends. What Hanumanji was able to do. You know, today the children like to go and see Spider-Man and Batman and Superman and so on. But what about Hanuman? He is available too, you know, on DVD and videos and so on. The only difference between Hanuman Baba and Superman and Spider-Man is Superman and Spider-Man are fictional characters. They can only do what they do because of the camera. Hanuman Baba actually did it. He is a real life superhero. But if we do not take the time to teach our children, you know, the powers of Hanuman and how to appreciate, you know, his powers, then they would gravitate to Superman and Spider-Man, as we say, who are fictional characters. Hanuman Baba actually exists and still exists today, and we have documentation of it, my dear friends. So taking that form as tiny as a mosquito, he enters into Lanka. But my dear friends, as he enters into Lanka now, so he's now within the city limits, so the borders, inside the borders of Lanka, and he resumes his normal form. Someone sees him. And this is a female god, a female Rakshas by the name of Lankini. So it's easy to figure out how she got her name. She's guarding the city of Lanka, so she's called Lankini. She sees him and she calls out to him, Are Murkh, tum kaha jao? O foolish one, where are you going? You must pass here first. You must seek my permission. I must authorize you. If I don't give you the authorization to proceed further, you cannot proceed further. You have to come to me first. How did Hanumanji respond to Lankini? You know, when you see him in the murti, he's holding something in his hand. What do you call it? The mukdar. And what does he do with the mukdar? He actually uses the mukdar, and this is one of the situations, my dear friends, under which he utilizes the mukdar. When there is disrespect, when there is foolishness, my dear friends, such as what Lankini is displaying, he utilizes the mukdar. And so as she spoke to him in this manner, he struck her with the mukdar. And what happened to her? She fell upon the ground. Obviously, the mukdar is very powerful, and so is Hanuman Baba. But he didn't leave her there, you know. He stood there, and in a few short moments, Lankini recovered herself. And as she stood before him, my dear friends, Lankini was transformed. Jodi Pani says, she clasped her hands together, she bowed her head. Jai Bajrang Bali, Pavan Putra Hanuman, I now recognize you, my Lord. You are Hanumanji. She bowed to his feet. Today I am blessed to get your darshan, O Pavan Putra. Is this the same person, the same Lankini? Let us go through this, let us retrace our steps for one moment. Before the mukdar, what did she say? Are Murkh, O foolish one, where are you going? Get my permission first. After the mukdar, what did she say? Prabhu, Chama Karu, forgive me, my Lord. I now recognize you. What did it take? One mukdar. And all the rubbish and foolishness. Some people say dotishness. whatever you want to say, all of that was removed, my dear friends, with one blow from the Mukdal. Sometimes when you see people's behavior today, you come to the conclusion that that is what some people need as well. One good Mukdal to bring sense and sensibility, my dear friends. When you see questionable lifestyle and questionable behavior and so on, it seems, my dear friends, that many are going in the direction of Lankini. You know who were Lankini's friends? Let us ask ourselves the question, why was she unable to recognize Hanuman Baba? Ravan was one of her friends. You think if you sit with Ravan, and you're having a conversation with Ravan, he would be speaking about the greatness of Bhagwan Sri Ram? No. Ravan's conversation would not be about Bhagwan. You think if you're lying down on the junction by the bar, they would be talking about Ramayan Katha and singing bhajans? No. Another type of music would be playing there, another type of conversation you'd be hearing there, but it would be of a different nature. Tulsidas Ji Maharaj says, when the dust gets into contact with the wind would blow the dust upwards towards the heavens. When that same dust gets into contact with water, it turns into mud and flows down into the drain and into the gutter. When we get into good company, our mind, our thoughts, our values, our behavior is lifted up, just as the dust goes heavenwards with the wind. And obviously when we get into bad company, what happens? Just like the dust turns into mud and goes down into the gutter, we too, my dear friends, end up in the gutter as well. So this was Lankini's problem. Ravan and Kumkaran were her friends, and my dear friends, her association with them caused this demise in her thoughts and her behavior. So this is why, my dear friends, at first she spoke in a very disrespectful manner to Hanumanji, but of course subsequently, receiving the blow from the Mukdal, my dear friends, she has come to her senses. Jai Shri Hanuman, Jai Shri Hanuman. Mangal Murati Maruti Nandana, Sakala Mangale Mulani Kandana, Pavan Tanai Santan Hitakari, Hridaya Birajat Avadh Bihari. प्रेम से बोलिए श्री पवन पुत्र हनुमान की जय. My dear friends, completely transformed, Lankini stands before Hanuman Baba now and sings and chants many beautiful mantras and bhajans and so on, glorifying Shri Hanuman Swami. And now she says to him, O Pavan Putra, what you have set out to do today by coming to Lanka, simply take the name of Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra. By taking his name, you will be able to accomplish, O Hanumanji, even the impossible. इसी नगर की जय सबका जा, प्रभु सी नगर नगर रामा अति लघु रूप धरेऊ हनुमाना अति लघु रूप धरेऊ हनुमाना कैथा नगर सुमिरी भगवाना राम सिया राम जय जय राम बोलो राम सिया राम जय जय राम बोलो राम सिया राम जय जय राम। प्रभिसी नगर की जय सब काजा हृदय राखी कौशलपुर राजा। Now here's a chaupai which every Hindu should know. This is the actual chaupai that Hanumanji utilized, my dear friends, to enter into that city of Lanka, which is the capital of danger. You have certain parts of the country that are called hotspots, although I feel the whole country is a hotspot right now, in terms of the violence and so on that is taking place. Lanka was like a hotspot, my dear friends. Venturing into Lanka was, taking a mortal risk, placing your life in danger. But by chanting this chaupai, Prabhisi Nagar ki jay sabakaja, Hridaya rakhi Kosalpur raja, Garal sudhari pukarai mitai gopara sindhu anal sitalai, even the great mountain, Sumeru, becomes like a grain of dust in your hand. The entire ocean becomes like a mere puddle of water. In other words, even the impossible, because obviously it's impossible for an entire mountain to become like a grain of dust. It is impossible for an entire ocean to become like a mere puddle of water. But this is what blessings is bestowed upon that devotee who chants the chaupai, and not just chant the chaupai. Hanumanji was a Ramdut. He was a great devotee of Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra. And when you chant the chaupai as a devotee, my dear friends, even the impossible becomes possible. And this is what Lankini says to Hanuman Swami: set out on this mission that Sri Ram has given to you, O Hanumanji, and you would become successful in so doing through the blessings of Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra. Even that which appears to be insurmountable and unattainable becomes within your grasp. It is placed in the palm of your hand. अब सौंप दिया इस जीवन का सब भार तुम्हारे हाथों में, सब भार तुम्हारे हाथों में है, जीत तुम्हारे हाथों में, अरुहार तुम्हारे हाथों में है, हार तुम्हारे हाथों में. In your hands, O Prabhu, my fate, my destiny, all outcomes positive lies in your hand. So whom do we turn to? We surrender to that divine Lord. This is the lesson, my dear friends, that Hanuman Baba leaves with us here tonight. And this is a lesson, more importantly, we take home with us. And not just that it will remain here, for retention in memory, but we'll actually say to others who are not here tonight. And this is one of the, sometimes, my dear friends, the breakdown in communication, So we go home from the Satsang, and what do we say to those who are home who did not come to the Satsang? Well, you might tell them the Karhi and the Chanati is good. Nothing is wrong with that. That's fine. But what about the Katha? Is there something that you could say to them from the Katha as well? Something that would benefit them in a tangible manner. In today's society, everyone faces challenges. Be it the child in school, be it the person in the workplace, even if you're home. There are so many challenges and battles and so on that we are facing as a people. Give to them something, my dear friends, of reassurance. Well, you didn't have the time or you were too busy to come to the mandir. So let me tell you what was said in the Katha. Give them the reassurance that when you chant even Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Bhagwan's blessings would enable you to overcome. You know, if you can't remember the Chaupai, I know you could Google it, the entire Ramayan is online. You know, we started off by saying the children, what they're exposed to online sometimes corrupt their minds and thoughts and so on. But the Ramayan is there. The Gita is there online. The Shiv Puran is there online. All the bhajans are there online. But is what we are searching for, my dear friends. That is what is going to come to us. You know. So if you search for the Ramayan is there, it's going to come to you. So you know, all of these are technological tools that is in our hands, at our disposal. But how do we utilize it? Is it in a constructive manner or is it in a destructive manner? Let us be the ones, my dear friends, who would utilize these technological tools in a constructive way by guiding our children, monitoring our children, you know. Search for the Ramayan instead. Search for the bhajans and the mantras instead, you know, and use it, my dear friends, in a positive way. Prem se bole Sitapati Ramachandra ki jai. So I will stop Katha at this stage. I will ask Pandit Vinayak Maharaj to perform the final Havan with the Shrota. And as the final Havan is being conducted, we will join together in bhajan. राम राम हरे राम कहाँ, राम राम हरे राम, अरे राम राम दशरथ कहा और चल गया सुरधाम। जाओ 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 रामा, जाओ जाओ रे अयोध्या, राम चले बारना रे, राम चले बारना रे। जाओ 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 रामा, जाओ जाओ रे अयोध्या, राम चले बारना रे, राम चले बारना रे। जब से जन्म वही पुरलीन्हा, सुर नर मुनि सब हो सुख दीन्हा। जब से जन्म वही पुरलीन्हा, सुर नर मुनि सब हो सुख दीन्हा। मात कौशल्या गोरी खिलावत, मात कौशल्या गोरी खिलावत, बारना रे राम चले बारना रे। जाओ 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 रामा, जाओ जाओ रे अयोध्या, राम चले बारना रे, राम चले बारना रे। रावण हरि गुमार बथायो, अंगर बात बाली सुध आयो। रावण हरि गुमार बथायो, अंगद बात बाली सुध आयो, गौतम ऋषि के नारी अहिल्या, गौतम ऋषि के नारी अहिल्या, बार नारे राम चले बार नारे। जाओ 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 रामा, जाओ जाओ रे अयोध्या, राम चले बार नारे, राम चले बार नारे। परशुराम मुनि मन सिंघाए, जनक राज तेरे बहु तेरे साये। परशुराम मुनि मन सिंघाए, जनक राज तेरे बहु तेरे साये। प्रभव मन तो जरत तोलक भर, प्रभव मन तो जरत तोलक भर, बार नारे राम चले बार नारे। जाओ 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 रामा, जाओ जाओ रे अयोध्या, राम चले बार नारे, राम चले बार नारे, राम चले बार नारे। This is a classical art form, my dear friends, that we spoke of during Katha. And of course, as we mentioned, totally original to Trinidad. This is what our ancestors developed. And I want to do now, you have chutney singing today, and you have chutney singing from long time. The original chutney song, my dear friends, actually conveyed certain meaning. Jagannath Puri mein Thakur bhale biraje. Jagannath is Lord of the universe. Kashi chori Mathura nagari, kahi thori Kashi. Lord Krishna, of course, walked in Mathura, in Kashi, Vrindavan mein jaye biraje. In Vrindavan, the gopis and cowherds got darshan of him upon the banks of the sacred rivers. Satyuga chori Mathura nagari, Dwapara chori Kashi. Of course, we do not live in Satyug nor Dwapar Yug. We live in Kali Yuga. But he walked, my dear friends, the face of this earth in Satyug and Dwapar. And of course, his message remains with us in this age of Kali Yuga. In other words, my dear friends, the art form, the original art form was pure. It conveyed the message of a bhajan, but of course in a fast, up-tempo beat. Nothing is wrong with the fast beat. But of course, what are you singing? What lyrics is being conveyed? Today it's more about getting drunk and what you drink and what you don't drink. And this is why I wanted to just share the lines with you and share the meaning of the lines with you, for it's constructive. It's telling us about Lord Krishna from Dwapar Yug to Satyug, and of course where we are in Kali Yug, in Mathura, in Vrindavan, in Kashi, all these holy cities, my dear friends. So nothing is wrong with the beat, my dear friends, but it's the lyrics that are being conveyed. The lyrics are supposed to build us up, convey something meaningful, knowledgeable, and intelligent, not something to corrupt the lives of the people. O Jagannath Puri mein Thakur bhale biraje. Jagannath Puri mein Thakur bhale biraje. O Jagannath Puri mein Thakur bhale biraje. Thakur bhale biraje, Thakur bhale biraje. Jagannath Puri mein Thakur bhale biraje. O Jagannath Puri mein Thakur bhale biraje. काहे चोरी मथुरा नगरी काहे छोड़ी काशी। काहे छोड़ी मथुरा नगरी काहे छोड़ी काशी। काहे चोरी मथुरा नगरी काहे थोरी काशी। काहे थोरी काशी। वृंदावन में जाए विराजे, वृंदावन में जाए विराजे वृंदावन की बासी। ओ जगन्नाथपुरी में ठाकुर भले विराजे, जगन्नाथपुरी में ठाकुर भले विराजे। ठाकुर भले विराजे, ठाकुर भले विराजे जगन्नाथपुरी में ठाकुर भले विराजे। जगन्नाथपुरी में ठाकुर भले विराजे। सतयुग छोड़ी मथुरा नगरी द्वापर छोड़ी काशी। सतयुग छोड़ी मथुरा नगरी द्वापर छोड़ी काशी। सतयुग छोड़ी मथुरा नगरी द्वापर थोड़ी काशी। द्वापर थोड़ी काशी। जाए कुंड में जाए विराजे, जाए कुंड में जाए विराजे वृंदावन की बासी। ओ जगन्नाथपुरी में ठाकुर भले विराजे, जगन्नाथपुरी में ठाकुर भले विराजे। ठाकुर भले विराजे, ठाकुर भले विराजे जगन्नाथपुरी में ठाकुर भले विराजे। ओ जगन्नाथपुरी में ठाकुर भले विराजे। ओ जगन्नाथपुरी में ठाकुर भले विराजे। बोलिए श्री वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की जय। At this point in time, खड़ा हो जाए. Let us all stand for Ramayan Arti. आरती श्री रामायण जी की कीरति कली कल लितसिया गावत ब्रह्मा गिक मुनि नारद वाल्मीक विज्ञान विषादर सुख सन तादि शेष और शादर वरनी पवन सुख कीरति नीति गावत वे दस शवो शास्त्र शब ग्रंथन को रस मुनिजन धन संतन को सरवस सार अंश सम्मत सब रीति संतति गावत शंभु भवानी अरुधत शंभव मुनि विज्ञानी व्यास आदि कवि पुंग कथानी तात भुसुंद गरुड़ के कलिमलहरणी विषय रसपीति सुभग सिंगार मुखी युवती हरणी रोग भवमूरी यमीति तात मात सब गिरी तुलसी आरती श्री रामायण जी की कीरति अयोध्यावासी राम 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 दशरथ नंदन राम अयोध्यावासी राम 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 दशरथ नंदन राम पतित पावन जानकी जीवन सीता मोहन राम जय जय राम 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 बोलो राम 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 सीता राम 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 बोलो राम 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 बोल अयोध्यावासी राम 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 दशरथ नंदन राम पतित पावन जानकी जीवन सीता मोहन राम जय जय राम 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 बोलो राम 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 जय जय राम 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 सीता राम 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 जय जय राम राम राम. This brings us to an end of our devotions here tonight. Let us all bow our heads in this final prayer. We give thanks to Bhagwan. It's through the blessings of Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra, the blessings of Hanuman Swami that we have come together tonight in this one night Ramayan Satsang here, this mandir. We pray that Bhagwan places His protective hands upon us. May your Lord continue to safeguard us and protect us. against all dangers and difficulties. Moreover, inspire within us, O Lord, bless us with that motivation to continue this devotion to you that enhances our spirituality and brings together the village and the community in worship and devotion to your lotus-like feet. Mantrahinam kriyahinam bhaktihinam janadhanam yat pujitam maya devam paripurnam tadastu me. Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva Tvameva bandhuscha sakha tvameva Tvameva vidya dravinam Tvameva sarvam mama deva deva. Om shanti 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 Hari Om. प्रेम से बोलिए श्री गजानन स्वामी की, उमापति महादेव की, पवन सुत हनुमान की, श्री वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की, उड़ैसा जगन्नाथ की, बोलो भाई सब संतन की, सियापति रामचंद्र की. Let us hear all voices as we chant victory to Sanatan Dharma. Shri Satya Sanatan Dharma ki Jai Jai Sitaram. The grace and blessings of Bhagavan Sri Ramchandra be with you. Asanichi, kindly be seated, devotees.
The Ganesh